Nuclear waste stockpiles have been building up and mishandled for years. This enormous problem continues to grow daily by the tons and more adversely affects our economic standard of living, threatens our national security, and harms our environment. The stockpiles worldwide will continue to grow until this solution is presented and accepted for the good of mankind. Did you know right now, even as I speak, almost 500 nuclear power plants worldwide are each producing and churning out approximately 10,000 metric tons of radioactive nuclear waste per year? That's a combined output of 20 to 30 million pounds of highly radioactive nuclear waste all around the world annually. Imagine the cost of simply trying to contain this dilemma and the assortment of problems associated with it. These massive costs are ultimately paid for by every consumer of energy and taxpayers around the globe. What makes this material radioactive in the first place? Simply put, the atomic makeup of this material gets altered or put into an unstable state, which causes it to release energy. It's like removing a certain part of the atoms, making the atoms wildly active, building up heat, which is the energy needed to produce electricity in the nuclear power plants. Nature's way of bringing this material back into a stable condition and no longer radioactive takes thousands of years. However, I'm proposing a process ready for the research and development which will effectively put the atoms back together in this radioactive material, returning it to its natural, stable, and non-radioactive state. More on this in a moment. So what actions are being taken by the nuclear power industry to deal with the radioactive material? Currently, their only effort to contain this problem has resulted in storing the nuclear waste in spent fuel pools to cool it, and then outside dry cask storage areas, where they can only wait the thousands of years for Mother Nature to restabilize it, or hope for someone to develop a process to neutralize it. Meanwhile, the nuclear power plants everywhere keep churning this radioactive material out until storage of it has become outside stockpiles that present a multitude of problems. For example, remember the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, when our airliners were hijacked and flown into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Suppose these terrorists had instead hijacked large passenger jets and crashed them into several of our nuclear waste storage areas where the radioactive waste is stockpiled. There would be huge, instant, dirty bombs, releasing vast amounts of radioactive particles into the atmosphere. Think back to the Black Cloud of Russia, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant during the 1980s, or more recently, the Fukushima nuclear power plant meltdown in Japan. Could there be a nuclear meltdown caused by too much buildup of energy within a large stockpile of radioactive nuclear waste? Whether the disaster is man-made or natural, these are just a few frightening possible scenarios which could happen due to simply storing and stockpiling radioactive waste. I'm sure there are others which we do not wish to ponder. And what about the vast amounts of money the nuclear power industry spends on their program of storage containment? They spend untold millions of dollars towards equipment and handling, security measures, and environmental concerns. These costs are passed on to the consumers of energy through higher utility bills, and ultimately, they also get heaped upon the taxpayers when the government involves itself with these problems. And does the government have any answers for what to do with the nuclear waste? You bet they do. It's called tax and spend. Back in 1984, the U.S. Congress passed the Nuclear Waste Policy Act, requiring the U.S. Department of Energy to develop a solution to the problems associated with nuclear waste. This, of course, allowed the Department of Energy to begin assessing fees from the nuclear power industry for this purpose, and these fees were simply passed on to their utility customers, bringing them higher energy bills each month. So, since that time, the U.S. Department of Energy has been collecting these hidden taxes, and they have stockpiled them into nearly $30 billion of a super fund supposed to pay for resolving issues surrounding radioactive waste materials. However, we still have the problems, and they still have most of the funds. Oh, but there was some of that money spent toward their solution during the past 30 years. The Department of Energy came up with a plan called the Yucca Mountain Project. This was a plan to make a large cavernous area miles underground beneath Yucca Mountain, 90 miles north-northwest of Las Vegas, Nevada, and begin stockpiling radioactive nuclear waste from all over America. Of course, Nevada did not want this project in their backyard, and the other states would not stand for the transportation of this material within their borders. just imagine a meltdown under this mountain, or a train crash with cars loaded with radioactive material. Finally, the backlash from the states has caused Congress and the Department of Energy to scrap the Yucca Mountain project and shut it down. Now we are back to square one. We still have the nuclear power plants churning out more radioactive waste material and stockpiling it in storage. And the ever-increasing costs of doing this are still showing up in our energy bills each month. After all, there is no such thing as a free lunch. It is about time for a real solution to this problem. And that time is here, now. The CEO of a company called Advanced Nuclear Solutions, Mr. Frank Midner, has developed a process which will stabilize radioactive material, rendering it non-radioactive in a short period of time. However, at this time, Advanced Nuclear Solutions is in need of startup and operating capital for research and development of this process. Once fully operational, the company will bring the process to market for the most remarkable solution to the problems of dealing with radioactive waste in history. Every human being on this planet can now breathe a sigh of relief because Advanced Nuclear Solutions will take away the threats posed with nuclear waste. The endeavors of this company will lead to no longer needing vast amounts of money for manpower, equipment, or space for storing this waste, because there would be no more building up stockpiles of radioactive material. These substantial cost savings within the power industry will then be passed on to their customers through lower utility bills each month. Why not? Nuclear energy would become the most economically produced source of power. And since there would no longer be stockpiles of nuclear material, the threat of theft or using it for a dirty bomb would virtually be eliminated. The Advanced Nuclear Solutions process is the solution to making the world much safer from terrorists who would want to use radioactive material to harm you, because there would be far fewer sources from which to acquire it. But the greatest benefit of all is the safety which Advanced Nuclear Solutions would produce for the environment. No stockpiles of radioactive waste means no possible meltdown or dirty bomb threat to cause any radioactive particles to be released into the atmosphere. Plus, there are no carbon emissions from nuclear power plants. So after those stockpiles of waste are eliminated, nuclear energy will become the cleanest source of energy. In conclusion, Advanced Nuclear Solutions holds the promise to make nuclear energy production the most cost-effective and the most environmentally clean means of meeting the world's energy needs, also allowing for each nation to become more self-sufficient to meet their own energy demands. Advanced Nuclear Solutions, with its neutralization process, will only make the world a much better place in which to live. For your part, I have presented just a few reasons here for you to pledge support with your dollars to further this project. So please go ahead, make a pledge today to Advanced Nuclear Solutions and toward this improvement of mankind and the world. Thank you.